Welcome to the Strath Vibes podcast, episode 4. And on this episode, we will be focusing on Cybersecurity Month, since we're in the month of October. So, I am your host, Maurice Nzioka. With me in studio is Mr. Gerald Sule, one of our very fine scholars here at Strathmore University, and Ferdinand Mwasaru, a very good offensive security engineer. I will give you guys time to introduce yourself. Tell us an origin story. You know, cybersecurity experts are basically like superheroes. Give us a bit origin story of yourself and how you got started with cybersecurity. Start with you, Ferdinand.
All right, Maurice. Thanks a lot for the hefty introduction. As Maurice has said, my name is Ferdinand Mwasaru. Majorly focusing on the offensive side of security. So for the guys, those terms are a bit new. There's the offensive and defensive aspect. So offensive, you're breaking in. Defensive, you're trying to protect against that. Yeah. So there's a bit of an origin story how I got into security. Dates back all the way to 2017. My last year in high school. Yeah. There was this challenge in high school, I think from one of the institutions offering the cybersecurity courses in Nairobi. There was a particular challenge and I was one of the best, to blow my own trumpet, but I got that opportunity, yeah, and I was able to study for a security course for about 6 months, yeah. So that's what got me ideally into security. But the caveat along the way was my parents, yeah. So I'm pretty sure for most of us, parents come in the way at some point.
Yeah, true.
But
true.
My dad was of the opinion, like, who's going to employ you if you're going to hack into their systems? I'm pretty sure we've had that notion at some point. So he opted for me, actually changed the course from security to a software development course, which I ended up doing it in my degree as well, in my undergrad. But along the way, during COVID, I managed to go back to what I had an interest in at first. And that's how I've been learning security since then to where I'm right now, from being a total noob to actually being a proper pen tester in the space. So we'll get to interact more as we move along. Yeah,
that is great to know that. Quick question before we go on. So maybe someone would like to know what kind of resources you use. Did you need to invest a hefty sum? When people hear cybersecurity, they get all scared. It's a whole technical field, So did you break bank to get where you are right now?
Yeah, good question, Maurice. That's a very it's a question I get asked a lot, or rather we've been asked a lot. There's that notion, dating back in the days, yeah, you had to break bank to actually get these resources in terms of courses, and knowing security, most of these courses aren't that cheap, yeah. So for us, or rather the generation coming along at this particular time, the advantage or the leeway they have is the free materials nowadays. We have YouTube all over the place, yeah. So to this date, I'm also still learning on YouTube. So YouTube, I'll say, has been a major resource, but apart from that, there's so many other platforms that they offer free courses. So for people getting into the space, I wouldn't really advise, or rather I wouldn't really ask them to break bank to get all these certifications. Mm-hmm. Try first of all, get some of these platforms and understand, because cybersecurity as a whole is a very huge field. So before actually breaking bank into picking a certificate course that is based on a particular niche in security, try plug into different avenues of security, and from it you're able to now decide, okay, maybe I'll take the offensive route, learn the pen testing, learn the red team and whatnot. Maybe take the defensive route, yeah, from the regulation aspect, the SOC aspect, yeah. From that, now you can actually think of breaking bank if you're actually to scale up in the industry and be an actual profession. Yeah, so leverage mostly on the free resources, I'd say.
You hear that? There is no excuse for you not to get into cybersecurity. It's very simple. You can literally move from being a waiter and certify to be a cybersecurity expert. And come you have a little money in the bank, at iLab Africa in Strasbourg, we offer cybersecurity courses. You can come check them out or just go to the websites. You'll be able to get into cybersecurity.
Shameless plug there.
Yeah, Shane, this is me plugging you.
Proper.
All right, Mr. Sule. Hey, what's your origin story?
All right, thank you for the introduction, Morris, for the opportunity. For me, in terms of how I got into cybersecurity, first of all, I'm a tech enthusiast, so I was always into different aspects of IT and tech that I'd want to get into. So I was first a software developer, I think, for a couple of years. Then along the way, I realized, okay, how do I upskill in terms of finding my specific niche in the IT space? And how I ended up in cybersecurity was actually through one of the opportunities that iLab had at the time for the Smart Academy, the Cybersecurity Smart Academy. I think at the beginning it was in partnership with Safaricom, but now I think iLab runs it on its own. But that was one of my first introductions to cybersecurity. I joined the team mainly as a researcher now, before I got into the practical side. So I was interested in learning, okay, how does cybersecurity fit into different tech spaces, different technologies? Because I'm also passionate about the blockchain space, which I think we'll talk about a lot more as we continue.
Definitely.
But I eventually got into the offensive side as well, red teaming, as we'd call it, just in terms of pen testing, vulnerability analysis. How do we actually leverage weaknesses in the system and communicate that as well? So I think that's just a brief overview of what I do and what I'm passionate about in cybersecurity as well. And yeah.
So you would say you have a rather extensive experience on the side of research, right? Do you enjoy researching? Is there a human being?
Yeah, I do, because you're always learning new things. And honestly, I prefer being part of projects that are interesting, that no one is thinking about or done before. And it's what I find exciting as well. Also trying to see, like I mentioned, there's emerging tech, which I think we would mention as we continue, and how does the cybersecurity space fit into that? Learning more about it, and also engaging and working practically with people in the field in different cybersecurity communities, because there are lots of cybersecurity communities in Kenya with a lot of brilliant people who you learn from, and that experience is also really worthwhile for me.
Yeah. One of the cybersecurity communities is right here, the three of us.
Definitely.
Three of us.
Yeah.
Great community. All right, so I know you're also wondering about the hosts.
Yeah, what does Morris do?
What does Morris do? Well, Morris does a lot. And I actually started cybersecurity like for Ferdinand. Mine was back in high school, but it wasn't that deep into cybersecurity, trying to break a Windows password with PowerShell, just tinkering with the networking and all that. I got really interested, really sucked in, so it was like a rabbit hole. Before I knew it, I'm taking computer science in uni. After graduating, I tried coding.
Premium tiers.
I tried coding. Let me tell you guys, I tried coding.
We all tried.
I was working at this place called Tech Savannah. And they focus mainly on building programs for corporations. So I was there just trying my luck, and I was like, this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. Like, what? The whole having to come up with code. Well, I don't mind coding. Understanding the syntax is fine and all that. But having to come up with like code, creative idea, to create something. People who code are artists, because dreaming up a block of code that does a specific thing, that's crazy. So I was like, let me go back to cybersecurity. I mean, it's what I wanted to be anyway. So I moved from Tech Savannah. I went to a company called Revere Tech. There, I was a network security engineer. So that's when I got hands-on practice in cybersecurity. I used to configure firewalls and EDRs and SIEMs, all of these. Don't worry, all these terms, we'll define them as we go down the podcast. So, yeah, my first hands-on experience with cybersecurity was in Revere. That was a few years back. Then, after getting a great opportunity with iLab, I decided to move because, you can't always stay in one niche. And cybersecurity is very huge. In Revere, I used to do more deployments and configuring. But coming to iLab, I do more of the red team, the penetration testing and the security operation. So like SOC analysis and all that. And also teaching. So yes, I'm also a bit of a cybersecurity geek myself.
And you mentioned coming to iLab has given you a lot of opportunities. How is it teaching your first class? Cybersecurity.
Yeah. Well, I'm not bad with crowds. I'd say that. Like Ferdinand said, not to toot my own horn. But I'm not bad with crowds. I enjoy meeting new people, making new friends, so social skills are important. Another aspect of cybersecurity, you also need social skills. There's something called social engineering, where it's basically just gaining someone's trust, just trying to be someone's friend, so that you can stab them in the back and attack them.
I'm not gonna lie, but the whole teaching thing really caught me. It was a whole new environment for me.
I know, right?
I wasn't prepared. Like, be dealing with crowds, for me, standing in front of people wasn't really something I'd say I was keen. So yeah, it's been a whole journey, but just to get to learn from others as well.
But then there's this guy, Gerald.
Professor,
it's like he was born to teach. It's like he was born to teach, Hey, bro. But teaching is... one thing I like about teaching cybersecurity is that you get to understand more. The more you teach, the more you get to understand what you're teaching.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Yeah, it has... It's downside sometimes. You talk to people, and in every class, obviously, there's always that one person who's just looking at you, looking like they're concentrating, but they're not hearing anything. But they don't hear anything.
Oh, yeah, true.
All right, so
maybe this might be maybe a really early segue, but you said from the teaching aspect here, and what you're seeing in the Kenyan space. Let me just narrow down to our space, given that's where we are right now in the Kenyan space. How do you think from when you learn cybersecurity and how it's being taught right now? What do you think has improved? Where do you think we're lacking as a whole nation, as even trainers and people in the space? What do you think could be improved, like in teaching this upcoming generation, this security and everything under it? What do you think?
Well, I would like to transfer that question to Gerald.
This is how you throw someone under the bus, but it's all good. Yeah.
He's better equipped to answer that question. So take it away.
I think that's actually an important question to ask. Basically, what tunasema vitu kwa ground ni different. So now when you're sitting in a class, maybe as a student or maybe you're teaching now after you've gotten some experience, you get so bogged down in the documentation, the processes that people have done, but you remember that you talked about programming like it's an art, but so is cybersecurity, in the sense that you always have to be thinking outside the box, because there is no one size that fits everything that you need to do. An example is how you've talked about social engineering. How do I gain someone's trust to maybe try and get
Backstab.
or even get access to a system? There's no one way of sending a phishing email. There's no one way of reaching out to someone. And that also applies on the technical side. How are you able to encourage people to be confident in being creative in the skills that they're learning? Number one. And number two is collaboration is really important in terms of, that's one of the major issues we have in cybersecurity in the space right now, is in terms of information sharing, threat intelligence, which we'll talk about way more in depth, and that collaboration is also important. So what I'll say in a nutshell would be, one, be creative, always be willing to learn as much as you can. If you get the opportunity to practice, it doesn't have to be on a job. You can do a bug bounty. Or
CTF.
a capture the flag challenge, which for the guys who don't know what those are, bug bounty is basically, think of it like requests that companies make asking you, hey, can you compromise our system?
Find vulnerabilities in them.
And if you're the first one to find it, you get a payout out of
Yes,
that.
people will actually pay you to hack them.
Yeah. Then also in terms of capture the flags, how are you competing with other people who are learning cybersecurity in the space around the world, just to gauge your skill as well and build your confidence. Yeah.
Or to add on that, I think what one thing that could help improve how cybersecurity education is undertaken in Kenya is I feel like there should be like a centralized platform where we can access labs easily. Right now, it's either you pay for a lab or you host it yourself. So you have to build your own lab. But finding, say, a school that has its own servers that they've created the labs in there. So something like a hack the box scenario. Hack the box or try hack me. These are websites where you can learn cybersecurity. So those kinds of sites that are local, not in the international ones, that just local ones dedicated to us, to our country. Obviously it will grow, spill over to East Africa and Africa and the globe eventually, but we have to do it. Right now I haven't come across something that is in that line. So if we could do that, then yeah, that would be a great improvement. So what impressions do you get when you're out there, umeenda kahangout mahali, umefanya networking kidogo, and then they pop that question, what do you do? What are the impressions you get? What do people expect from you? Do you have any expectations or something?
First of all, people think that cybersecurity is just all action. You're on your laptop, you're coding,
Doing terminals
and stuff. And it's not always that. Another thing is people are like, can you hack my Facebook? Can you hack my Trust me. How many times have you got to that question?
I forgot my password.
This is an interesting thing I also came across, but a neighbor of ours, I don't know if I should mention it, but I'll just put it in there because it's also one of the impressions I got. But he was suspicious of the wife cheating. So what he wanted me to do, he even try and hack the wife's phone, and even he went to the extent to even get me there's this invisible gloves. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but he went to that extent of actually trying to buy those things for me and do the whole scenario and hack his home Wi-Fi and the wife's phone to actually proof that the wife is cheating or not.
Did you do it?
Well, there was money involved, so
Can you confirm or deny?
the bottom line, there was money involved.
Bottom line, there was money involved.
So you can guess. So, but yeah, the aspect of also we are rich. You see how movies and how the Western world
portrays hacking,
security and hacking and everything. It's this glamorous profession whereby all you have to do is just spawn a terminal or an Insta shell, people like the shell, and then a few lines of code and you're in, and you start getting money for the bug bounty, the CTF you mentioned. But along the way, you actually realize, geez, bug bounty is actually hard. I'm not the only one I'm not the only one doing this thing.
Yeah.
There's so many better guys outside this space who are like not sleep and like no rest. These guys manage to like do all these things, get better payouts before me. So yeah, the aspect of your reach. So sad.
But you've brought something interesting in terms of talking about bug bounties, and many people are thinking about the same things.
Yeah.
At any point in your cybersecurity journey, did you ever feel that feeling of imposter syndrome of like, am I really good at what I do? How do I get better? There are so many people in this space, and how do you manage with those thoughts?
My goodness.
And
Every morning.
feelings.
For me, it is every morning. I
I'm
wake up.
not gonna lie. Like I think every quarter for me, like I know it hits. I even know how. I even have the symptoms. Like it's coming. It's happening.
But I think one of the quick ways I found to remedy that is just do some labbing or just do anything in cybersecurity. For me, if I don't have access to lab, I just pop in some earphones, listen to a cybersecurity podcast, and maybe I might learn something I didn't know. You know, just feel closer to the field. Yeah. So I get that a lot. Actually, I get that a lot.
It's interesting. I think like everyone in the space has different coping mechanisms with it.
How do you
Personally,
deal with
for
it?
me, I'll try detach from security at like for good. I remember was it last year, 2023. There's a whole 6 months that I went without doing any security stuff.
Really?
I was literally doing nothing under security. So for me, the only way to deal with the imposter syndrome, for me, it's actually step away from it for a minute. Maybe I'll read the articles, I'll listen to the podcasts, I'll listen to news here and there. But stepping out of the space for a while, actually feel like goes like helps me a lot in like being able to come back. Because it helps me unwind. Exactly, that's the word. Yeah, because I come back feeling refreshed. I'm like, okay, now I can actually think, because I know cybersecurity, it's such a huge field and a massive field. Like if you're just constantly in it, you get lost in it. Yeah,
Exactly.
At some point, you really need to identify my niche. Okay, this is what I want to do in security, and this is what I'll focus on. So maintaining that space and trying to plug with different guys also helps. But stepping out for me for a while helps me a lot.
But it's a good kind of getting lost. Don't you
It's a good
think?
kind of loss as well. But is it healthy at the end of the day? So at the end of the day, there's family involved, there's friends here and there.
Yeah, true. Especially the stuff you see when you go into the dark web. Okay. So we don't want to get too digressed. So I just want you to elaborate to the listeners of our podcasts. What is the cybersecurity space in Kenya like? I mean, are there opportunities out there? I mean, people say yes, cybersecurity ni course ngumu, utashtua watu kwa kijiji lakini hautapata kazi. But is that really true? What are the opportunities in the cybersecurity space in Kenya, and what are the challenges that you might face when in the cybersecurity space in Kenya? Partner?
Okay. Proper question. Yeah, cybersecurity is a hard field. Don't lie, it's a hard field. Like coming into it, people think it's a beginner's kind of pathway. But once you get into starting looking for jobs and all that stuff, you realize there's more required of you as a security personnel.
Yeah.
You can't just graduate from degree and expect to just get a security job. Yeah, you have to like do the bug bounties, do the CTFs, do the different labs,
Right.
a lot of learning here and there. Yeah? So it is a difficult profession, I won't lie. But if there's the interest, the interest is there, the willingness to learn and grow every day, because we're seeing what's happening in this space. Yeah, there's so many what do you call them, emerging trends in IT.
Yes.
The cloud computing, the AI, the blockchain,
So much new technology
so much
coming
new
out,
tech.
yeah.
So constantly learning is a huge I feel like it's one of the most fundamental principles when getting into this kind of field.
Yeah, actually in tech, with our evolving technology, something that you knew today could be obsolete in a month or two.
Exactly.
And you'd have to learn the new technique or the new
Definitely,
technology.
So having that mentality helps a lot in moving along the field. Are there opportunities in the field? A lot. So a plethora of opportunities, like the aspect of all remote, because all you need for most of these security jobs is having that systems IP, or rather that systems domain, and you get access to whatever analysis you want to do, security analysis you want to do. Yeah. So are there opportunities? There's so many opportunities. Like we've mentioned before, security is such a huge field. So depending on you want to plug in, is it the jurisdiction aspect of security? Yeah. So many nations nowadays are battling that aspect of what is allowed, what is not allowed in terms of data. What can I share, and how am I dealing with data, such kind of information. So that's a whole niche in terms of regulation. So there's so many opportunities around security, I'm not going to lie, because even for as much as I'm in the offensive side, there's so many domains that are offensive. Yeah. So depending on where I want to plug in, and we're constantly using the network. I don't think the network is going down at any particular point.
So maybe after an apocalypse, but
something happens.
Yeah, but
so
right now,
we're definitely going to be relevant for most of the time. This is maybe once Gerald asks us that particular question, I'll throw in another question. Do you guys think with the famous AI, do you think AI will replace us as security professionals? We can put a pin onto that.
We'll put a pin onto that.
Pick
I think back to your question in terms of opportunities and challenges. One challenge is the misconception that people have about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, like any other field in IT, has very many different paths that you can take. Maybe during this space, you've talked a lot about hacking, pen testing, or the offensive cybersecurity, but there's also the policy side in terms of maybe you're not too interested in the technical side, but at the end of the day, policy informs what cybersecurity does and the impact it will have in a community and in a society. And having people who understand that and also talk about, okay, this is the challenges that people in our community online are facing. How are some of the things that we're developing, helping them? Then there's also in terms of, you talked about red teaming, you talked about blue teaming. You not talk about SOC analysis, or what a security operations center is. Basically just monitoring and supporting your clients' infrastructure and securing it as well. So also people need to understand that you don't all have to do the same thing. There's so many different pathways you can take. Then also another thing to pitch into that would be, in terms of learning, never get tired of learning. Just keep pushing yourself, finding things you're interested in, and then you can continue to grow within the particular space. And at the end of the day, cybersecurity also can awaken other interests that you have within you. For example, maybe you have a passion outside of IT, but then you realize that cybersecurity can have an impact on that. An example would be, there's a project we're researching on with Ferdinand, you as well, Morris, and I'll give a shout out to one of our collaborators, Paul Makolaka from Abia Africa, in terms of how do we actually extend connectivity in Kenya in a safe and inclusive way for people within those communities. That's something that Paul reached out to us about, which was passionate about, and we also thinking about, okay, that's a pretty interesting angle that we could take up as cybersecurity experts. And just to answer the question about AI, I saw this quote someone wrote, it's not that AI will replace you, it's someone who's using AI better than you are that will replace you.
100%.
So
exactly.
That's one thing you need to keep into. Those tools are available to everyone at the end of the day.
You need to leverage AI and inform your security.
Yeah, but before we could get into AI, Gerald, you mentioned something about the policy side of cybersecurity, which got me wondering about, for in the world that we live in, everything is connected, everything is on a network, right? So everyone needs cybersecurity at one point or another. So what are your experiences with bridging the gap on cybersecurity awareness between us techies who know the risks and everything that is involved in cybersecurity, and those who are not computer savvy,
our parents,
for instance, Kenya being one of the heaviest users of smartphones in our continent, we know for a fact that we need cybersecurity. So how is your experience in bridging that gap?
I really like that question. That's there are lots of experiences that I've had, but namely I would refer back to two experiences that I've had or communities I've interacted with that have really broadened my mindset. Firstly, in terms of when you look at the internet today, we'll talk about it as how ICANN describes it. It's a multi-stakeholder.
What is ICANN for those who don't know what ICANN is?
So just think of ICANN as one of the global bodies that help support how the internet works. I don't want to get into too many details, but definitely there's a plethora of organizations like that. But ICANN gives a platform for most people. Like you're talking about, you don't have to be tech savvy to get into that. An example would be in terms of, you've talked about the gap, but there's something we call the gender digital divide within the internet space in terms of, okay, we've created connectivity and people now have more access to maybe 2G, 3G, 4G, depending on where you are, but it's growing and it's there. But who's actually using it? Think about it like, if your connectivity within a country is at 80%, but your usage is at 40 or 20%, it means that you have not focused on that community and the people as a whole. And bridging that gap is, why is it that more men than women have access to the internet and using it on a day-to-day? Why is it that people in low-income areas, as much as they may have that connectivity, why is it making a positive impact on their life economically? So you need to start understanding from a policy side, is there any social challenge they're having that's keeping them? Or if it's not a social challenge, is it
beliefs as
or is it a knowledge issue? Have they actually been informed, okay, this is how the internet can help you and what it can do for you as well? Because like you've talked about how we don't have a lot of like local websites or companies doing rooms and
providing resources.
That's an issue now we refer to as there's no locally relevant content, or there's a limit of it, such that why is a mama mboga in Kakamega using her phone for? Why don't these guys in kiosks know that you can actually use the internet to boost
your own shop
or things like that? They don't know how the internet works for them on a day-to-day, and that's an important aspect that needs to come up as well. And I think one of the key things that we've been looking at as well within the project with Paul was how does making
the project was about creating a decentralized network to provide internet connectivity for
marginalized communities.
For rural communities. So that was just one of the things. What about you, Faina? What do you think about this gap? How would you breach it?
First of all, whatever we're doing right here, this whole Cyber Awareness Month,
educating,
the educational awareness, taking time out of our day to actually sit here. I don't know how long this podcast will be, but being able to talk to guys who are coming, guys in the space, guys in school, telling them how we found our way into this space, how we're feeling it as we move into space, such kind of things, and also there's a huge movement that I've picked in Kenya. It's a global thing, but it's also picking up in Kenya, and it's this whole aspect of the tech hubs. The tech hubs. There's so many bodies around that are pushing that. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of the B-Sides Nairobi. You guys have heard of She-Hacks. There's Cyber Shujaa as well.
Yeah, Ikral.
So many bodies which are picking up opportunities and trying to like spread the gospel of cybersecurity to more and more communities out there. The reason why I mentioned Tech Hub is because early in the year I was in Mombasa, and some of the guys whom I was there's a whole event, an Isaka event, a cybersecurity event, but some of the guys and students, it was Technical University of Mombasa, and Pwani University. Some of the students in the university, this is a university, mind you, these guys are doing bachelor courses, so degrees and whatnot. But the security that the amount of security that has penetrated that particular university, I wouldn't say security that
The breaches, say breaches.
leave alone breaches in terms of education and content that is being provided to the guys who like interested. It's just you see how we grew up in like learning computer science and how it's just general. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's that whole concept still to this day and age. Yeah.
So it's still a general concept.
It's still a general concept, yeah. So you go to class and all they tell you is introduction to cybersecurity, the different type of attacks. And that's it. Like you come out here, experiment, you start applying for security jobs and you realize shit.
You don't know how to use tools. You don't know how attacks works.
I don't know the tools. I don't know what. You see all that stuff. Yeah,
makes a lot of
So the
sense.
tech hubs coming up. Yeah. So I was trying to listen to some of them, some of the representatives in the school. Like if you're able to get a space whenever guys are like on holiday and stuff like that, I don't mind. I can. Mombasa nowadays isn't that far. Like there's so much in terms of connectivity.
Trains, you can fly.
You can fly as well. So being there even for a weekend, just meet up with these guys, like talk to them through like what's happening in the space.
Right.
Sensitize the word. Yeah. So that's a thing that I feel like it's trying to spell that gospel, which allows the space to grow as well.
Right.
A lot.
It seems like there is a lot to talk about.
I feel like we need like another episode.
We definitely need another episode. All right, maybe before we wind down, just let's talk about the emerging cyber threats, and I've been meaning to ask, what are the most common vulnerabilities, most common practices that people do obliviously, that are serious cybersecurity threats? Me, I'm going to say one. Your ID. Your ID is we call that it's a personal identifier. So in cybersecurity, that is confidential information or sensitive information. Yeah. So when you just kazi yako unaweka tu ID yako hapa nyuma ya simu, you know, anyone can just see, take a picture na aende. Yeah. Or when you're taking your pictures for the gram, you've just graduated and you have you want to show off your degree. Umepiga picha while you've posed with your degree, with your certificate, without hiding the personal identifier. Someone can easily steal your certificate, change their name, na apply job. So there are a lot. Maybe you guys can tell us more.
It's interesting you mentioned that someone could just pick credentials online and just use them to their advantage. There's this case, I think it was one of these news channels as well, on LinkedIn. We were very famous LinkedIn. It's the professional social media, whatever they call it.
You post our certificates.
You post everything you're doing in the achievements. So one of these, it was a company doing a particular red team campaign, and part of it involves social engineering. So as part of it, this social engineer, pentester in this sense, actually went to LinkedIn and looked at the job postings and whatnot. I don't know how they're able, like there's dumpings and emails on the net, so they're able to find the guys applying, or rather they're able to pick someone who's interested in that particular company, pick their credentials, pick the details and whatnot, and brought up a CV as this other person, and they applied for the job. Lo and behold, they even went ahead to actually get interviewed, move to the first, second, third process, and actually get accepted to the job. So it's a really concerning thing what people are posting online, and I feel like guys need to be keen on what they're doing online. So for me personally, it's an area I think I've been reading a lot on. It's things to do with ransomware attacks. It's pretty huge. It's been pretty sure we've had it in the space for a while now, but leave alone the aspect of someone capturing your data and holding it hostage for a ransom. There's a new niche which I'm discovering, which is all about ransomware what is the word? Negotiators. It's a whole career. I feel like it's coming up. But guys, actually, there's guys whom you see how the guys in the FBI's and the security departments, how whenever there's like an incident, they're the ones who like do the talking to the criminals,
the hostage negotiators.
The negotiators. You've seen it in movies. When a bank is held hostage, and how the guys talk. So this whole ransomware negotiator kind of role that is coming up in this space, which I feel like it's pretty interesting and huge, because being able to understand someone and understand the attacker's mindset. There's that famous book, Understanding the Attacker's Mindset, and trying to leverage their weak points and strongholds to actually not pay ransom or pay maybe a lesser ransom. It's a huge space. So ransomware attacks, in which emanate from things like this phishing, so clicking on links, getting your data hijacked and whatnot. So there's a lot in the space, but ransomware has been a huge reading area for me currently.
Right. Sule, maybe something.
Maybe just to go through it briefly. I think Ferdinand has mentioned quite a number of things. But the only thing I'd add is, in terms of trends and common attacks, it's also important to look at it in context. In terms of, if you look at it globally, you'd be like, these are the top 5 attacks. But you also need to look at it regionally as well. Like ransomware is a huge issue, but you find it mostly like in the Western Hemisphere, like in US, North America. In Kenya, we have a lot smaller issues or attacks here and there. But one of them is we have an issue with smishing, and in terms of fraud and SIM swapping. In terms of, in the last year alone, how many people from my own family are calling me, someone has hacked their WhatsApp, someone has hacked their M-Pesa or something like that. Mostly because they've been called, or maybe someone has sent a message that scared them and they sent information. And the thing is, you think you know these things, but what if it's a day, you're having a long day, you're tired, maybe you're stressed with work and something, so it can happen to...
It always happens when you least expect.
This is the new till for paying rent. Regards, management.
Then another thing is also in terms of just our own cyber hygiene as well is important, because that security will come from us. And this is mostly to guys in the social media space, or guys even like who maybe you're an influencer and you're really big on social media, you like posting and everything, but then you realize that there's so much of your data. There's something we call doxing that's common in the West, but it's also starting to become a thing in Kenya, in terms of whereby if you made the mistake of posting any information about your address and things, people can discover where you live, contacts and everything. And if that information is out there, it also affects your own personal security. Then there are also more niche attacks. I know this happened on TikTok a few months ago, something called the zero-click attacks.
Pegasus.
Pegasus, for example, whereby someone can gain access to your social media account without you necessarily even having to like a post to even respond to that message. That's the fact that you opened that chat has really compromised you based on how that will specifically work. So just making people more aware of these things is important, maybe as we wind up as well.
Well, since it seems like that is
our time for today.
That is our time for today. That is all we have time for. So maybe you guys could give us some closing remarks.
Parting shots.
Some parting shots.
Well, I think I could go with first. I think one thing I'd say is cybersecurity is hard, but that doesn't mean it's not exciting. Don't be scared to do hard things. It's important to challenge yourself and grow. Another thing would be, even in terms of the challenges on the space, at the end of the day, there are many issues and there are many things that need improving, and the best way to do that is by developing people with that skill within Kenya, and also connecting them with different communities, even organizations looking for these skills or helping to upskill them as well, which is part of what we do at iLab in terms of the work we do for clients, as well as the classes we teach and the courses we offer as well. And hopefully as we continue, because I'm pretty sure we may have other sessions talking about maybe cybersecurity and mental health, which is a huge issue, things to do with data protection. So this is just the beginning of a number of things we'll be talking about this month, and
You'll be hearing from us pretty soon.
As well as from the rest of the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ferdinand?
For me, it's just constantly learning. Yeah, that's the biggest, that's one of the a key fundamental in security. Yeah, so I always keep telling the guys I interact with, or rather, even from the mentors, the guys I talk to, is try to learn as much as possible, regardless of whether you see an opportunity or not. Try to learn as much as possible so that in the event an opportunity comes up, you're prepared. You don't have to start going, okay, let me go prepare, because an opportunity don't always come across that easily. So being prepared at all times, which involves learning, involves talking to people, attending these events, security events, on social media as well. This is a pretty apt social media generation. Yeah. So what do you use your social media for? Yeah. Is it just
what
TikTok,
does your TikTok algorithm look like?
Yeah, there's so many content creators nowadays who have snippets of security in 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute or so. Yeah.
Someone is explaining cybersecurity in
cybersecurity is
video.
Around us. It's not in the books. It's not, in so many hard courses here and there. It's all over around us. It's just about you to identify that and leverage into it and grab onto it and run away with it. So yeah. Keep learning, guys. Keep learning.
Right. So, take home point. If you want to get into cybersecurity, you have to be ready to learn, because technology evolves, and so should we. Right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us.
That is all we have time for. And hopefully we'll hear from you guys again soon, right?
Definitely.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.